Good evening, folks. Good afternoon. Good morning. It's actually quite early. This is a very strange time. I don't know how many of you are here. I did not have much time to promote this program. Let's throw the logo up there. There we go. Did not have much time to promote this program because it is a unique day today here at Late Night Grin headquarters. There are some different moving pieces that need to be considered. There's some stuff that needs recording. There's some different things going on for many grins to be had. Nonetheless, I hope you're all well. This is a unique review, I think it's fair to say, for this very platform. For much of our existence, we have watched a very particular kind of lane of professional wrestling. We have honestly, for much of our existence, been an AEW centric platform. We then did kind of an increase in WWE content around WrestleMania. And throughout, we would regularly threaten you all with this idea that at some point on a galaxy far, far away, we would just cover professional wrestling as a whole. Now, I think if you've been watching The Burt lately, or even watching any of our content, in fact, I think you can see that that's a genuine effort of ours. That is a thing we are intent on improving, and I think today is a nice step in that regard. Hopefully, the start of a new kind of genre of content for us. As for the first time, we're going to the Joshi scene today. I'm reviewing Tokyo Joshi Pro's Summer Sun Princess event, which, I mean, incredible name to begin with. You start the review at like an 8 out of 10, right, based on that alone. So that's the plan today. Now, I do want to kind of set the stage a little bit, and make this clear to anyone, because I never know. You never know. Someone may be watching their first show around here. They may have a particular knowledge base with this product, this scene, whatever it may be. I came into this event almost totally blind. Now, obviously, there were a lot of names on here who I am familiar with and have seen a lot of in some cases. However, as in terms of the overall product and the ongoing kind of ups and downs and arcs and tag teams and different dynamics, relationships, almost all of that was new to me. If you're interested in watching the event, it did have English commentary, so that will help you. It helped me. But so just to be clear, if I say stuff that is logical, if I say stuff that is completely at odds with the truth, I promise my intentions are good. I simply don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Okay, so there you go. That's just. Hopefully that sets the stage neatly enough. Couple things here. I've had Wrestle Universe before. Those of you that used to watch The Distraction may remember this, but back in the olden days, I actually had I kind of used the model to pitch something about the US scene. It must be said there is really something compelling about what this service offers. If you're unfamiliar, Wrestle Universe is it's kind of a media group's umbrella, basically, right? So you get DDT, Noah, Tokyo Joshi Pro. I don't know if there's a Nova. I'm not sure. I know that those three are like the main hooks. And the result of that is that if you buy it for one, you have this innate intrigue in terms of exploring others. I certainly think that the US scene could learn from that model rather than everyone having their own little, ballpark. But that's just me. What do I know? I've always liked it. And with that in mind, at the end of this show, I want to kind of throw up the bat signal for you guys to give me some matches to review, because I want to kind of explore the app itself, or the service, whatever the fuck. I was going to do the joke, but it felt like the wrong time. So thank you, JJ. The other big thing here was that this was the first time for this promotion. I believe, I want to say DDT had their first earlier last week, I want to say. But this was the first time for them they had the audible crowds, rather than just the clapping. People could actually cheer and chant, which was a thing because in the opening match, when which was Moko Miyamoto and Juria Nagano. Again, apologies I messed up the names, but it was actually both of their first times wrestling in front of crowds that could react that way, as they're both so new in their career, which I think gives you perspective on what a kind of happening this was in terms of crowd reaction. So there's a lot here to like. If you have an interest in exploring this scene, but you've never done so, I'd say this is a good show to do it on. I would, because based on the quality of it, and the crowd helps, so on and so forth. One quick thing before we actually get into it, as I've done 6 minutes of quick things. Um, I was going to do kind of like a double header review here, where I picked out some matches from the Stardom show and picked out some matches from this one. But when I looked at the reviews for this show, there were like 7 straight matches that got like a decent, like a 3.5 and up range. So I was like, let's just watch this show and we'll cover Stardom another day. So if you're a big fan of that particular promotion, I will get there eventually, I promise. But this felt like a good time to kind of look at Tokyo Joshi Pro. So I would like to review this show, as I often do with shows I'm less familiar with, products I'm less familiar. Let's go in terms of my personal kind of match ordering. I'd like to ask the chat. There's over 20 of you in here. What was your favorite match of the night? I'm intrigued by this, because there was, again, I just mentioned it. It was literally hit after hit on the card. Honestly, it was kind of crazy how well the show managed to flow while giving you quality at every turn. It was very well paced in that regard, I thought. So I'm intrigued which match you guys had as your favorite on the show. For me personally, Ben has resubscribed with Prime. He's been resubscribed. He's been subscribed, sorry, for 2 months. All how, he says. All how indeed, Ben. Thank you very much, pal. We appreciate you. So for me personally, while I thought there were many contenders, main event was my favorite match. Quite comfortably so, too. I think those of you that know my kind of preferences and taste, then I think that won't surprise you, right? Rika Tatsumi challenging for the Princess title, champion Shoko Nakajima. I thought this was absolutely fabulous. There was something here in terms of pacing and content that was very, very to my grin, I must say. Rika had this incredibly mean edge early. The commentary team actually popped for it. Chris Brooks and I forget the gentleman's name. I'm sorry. He's also, both of them are pro wrestlers, of course, but I forget his name. My bad. But they had a blast, by the way. But she had this terribly mean edge early on and kind of took control. And the champion, Nakajima, they established this little plot point. It's very subtly done, which I think is very much a lost art now, where her knee was worked, but rather than doing it as like a quick kind of edge, like cut off, they're working the knee, now this is a different part of the match, It was something where kind of you were reminded of it. So what would happen is, Shoko would hit offense, and she would just so happen to land back on that knee, and she would like hold it for a second, or she would come off the top rope and she'd hesitate for a second, and it was kind of this constant thread, which then made for the transition when Tatsumi took over and went after the leg. And like, man, when I say she went after the leg, she went to work on that thing. She used the post. She kept going back to the figure 4. She's like a double dragon screw at one point. It was the works, bro. It was awesome. It was unbelievably good. And the idea to me, and again, some of this may be at odds with the reality, this is just my read on the match, was it had this trend where it felt like Rika was wrestling the perfect match and was a step ahead at every turn. Like, she had some awesome counters. Like, at one point she had like this deadlift power bomb that really caught me off guard and looked fucking amazing. And she would always be able to reclaim kind of her grip of things. But she could never quite get to a point of no return. Shoko would always fire back and would always have like a flurry and stay alive in there. I found this to be really dramatic, and I thought they did a great job of letting things kind of breathe. which I sometimes struggle with, and not this show actually, but when I've watched Joshi in the past, and this is again, let me stress, not an educated take, just a like rough take. If someone who's just seen greatest hits and stuff, I've had to adjust the pace somewhat. This was much more conventional for me, which is partly perhaps why it was my favorite. I don't know what the consensus is, but I just loved that kind of cycle that they had here of the work on the leg, and the way that Nakajima would kind of give you just enough hope, right? There was enough hope spots, and man, did it show in the people. The people were there for this in a big, big way. Um, there was a desperation to it. There was a dragon sleeper submission down the stretch that was just like peak professional wrestling. Like the amount of drama they got out of that, it had that great quality of the best false finishes often do, where it had reached a point in the match in terms of how much Rika had taken, where the audience was kind of sitting there being like, kind of questioning themselves inwardly as if, this has to be the finish in some ways, right? Which is saying I absolutely adore it, a pro wrestling false finish. And they got the submission, they kind of squeezed everything they could out of that, man. It was on long enough that again you had that thought of, oh, well, this has to be it. But best of all, that was kind of the final punch in terms of the way the match was laid out, meaning that they pushed it just far enough that you were convinced you were about to see a title change, only for Nakajima to escape. And it felt like with that, it was almost like Rika. That was her last like roll. That was her, that was the final piece of her master plan, so to speak. And they went to the finish, and the champ retained. I thought the match was absolutely fabulous. It was my favorite match on the show by a distance, and I say that as no slight to the others. It was just the one that I could most kind of sink my teeth into. Um, the way that Rika Tatsumi worked the leg, I thought was like masterful. Um, and I thought that the Nakajima had a very like nuanced, subtle performance in terms of her selling. Again, I mentioned it earlier, but just to reiterate, I absolutely loved um, the way that they kind of reminded you of what would kind of prove to be the centerpiece of the match. I thought that was brilliant, honestly. So, love this one. It was the main event. I certainly want to see more of both women, Rika especially, whose style, um, certainly when she went with the drop kick to the knee, the Tanahashi nerd in me popped, and the dragon screws and such. Obviously, I need to see a whole lot more, to give you a more educated read on her kind of style. But from what this was very like traditional, whatever that means. But yeah, both women were great here. This was a tremendous match. It was my favorite. One thing that's worth noting about these matches, the co-main event, Spurzer followed. Thank you, pal. We appreciate it. The co-main event, I believe, clocked in just shy of like 25 minutes. Everything else was under 20. I did a little bit of digging, and people seem to say that, like, in terms of length, this promotion generally is like, it very seldom breaks the 20-minute mark. So if you're looking at these matches and you're not particularly familiar and it's kind of daunting, I will say that as someone that was in a very similar place to you beforehand, it really does flow. Most of the matches seem to end with their natural conclusion, and not in a way that takes away from the quality itself. So that's worth noting. So main event was great. Let's go next to International Princess title. Incredible title names. The champion, Maki Ito, up against Great Britain's own Alex Windsor. Now, from what I could gather, and I was talking to the great Confirmed Shoe about this briefly, this was Windsor's promotional debut, from what I could gather. Folks in the chat, tell me if I'm wrong. I certainly could be. I probably am. Just tell me, if I say anything wrong, just tell me. But I believe this is her promotional debut. Windsor was previously, and I should have checked this. I can, but I think she was Liberty, right? Wasn't that a thing? Let me make sure of this. I should have checked this before, but let me just. Anyway, regardless of the name, yes, Libby. She was in the scene for a long time. And the story is that there was a certain read on who Windsor was as a wrestler. She went away and she came back in the last couple of years, I believe. in this kind of form, and has been kind of a revelation um, in this part of her career. Again, if any of that is incorrect, please tell me. But I believe that is the story when it comes to Alex Windsor. Well, let me tell you, folks, if you're not aware of her, this may be the match I most recommend in terms of like a single like star making performance, because Windsor was incredible here. Um, and there you go. To that point, that's kind of what I was alluding to. I think that kind of be the natural takeaway here. And let me say, it's not just like Maki Ito, who I've always enjoyed on AEW, and I think you see here even more the appeal. It was funny to me that they seemingly suggested on commentary that Windsor had lost her gear and this was like a makeshift attire, which is hilarious because she looks so badass. But she was there you go. Promotional debut, yes, and left in 2017, came back in 2021. 2021, wow, it's even more recent than I thought. It was like, I thought it was just before the pandemic. I'm completely wrong. There you go. Thank you, pal. Big fan of this. There you go. This is kind of the idea that I thought would be the case. But she had this confidence, man, that was like incredible. Like it came through the screen, and she really embraced her role as like the outside wrestler, and she was flipping off the people. There was this awesome deal early where they went head to head, and she kind of got in Maki's face, and like it was a reminder of how effective stuff like this can be. Like true confidence can be so. I think in wrestling, so often people are trying to play like roles and trying to portray something that how many heels are cocky, right? What does that mean? I don't know. But man, here you actually like really felt an intensity, right? There was like a real. She was like challenging Maki in there. It was fucking awesome. So I love that. And it brought an aggression out of Maki that's certainly not, I think, a surprise to anyone that's familiar with her. Even for me, it wasn't, and I've seen a lot less than I'm sure many of you guys have. But she matched, Windsor's energy in that sense. I do have to say, Windsor is all physicality, man. I mean, she's like genuinely one of those wrestlers, and this is something that I think is a really a big kind of strength of a wrestler that I think we sometimes under discuss. But not only is she like aggressive on offense, but did you see the way she would like feed strikes and bump? Dude, she is just intense, man. When she was taking those DDTs, she was spiking it, or when Maki would throw a strike and she would like throw herself into it almost. It added a fire to this thing that was special. For the first kind of portion of the match, Maki was selling and really had the people with her. Absolutely, this is true. The charisma of Maki, and just how much she's got a connection with the people was all she needed in that first part. Once she gets going to her offense, though, I completely agree with this too. I think, you know, I think she certainly is probably understated as a pure wrestler. Whatever that even means. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we get stuck on those things, but she's certainly good at it. There was great fire when she would exchange strikes with Windsor. I love the way that they kind of portrayed that, the way that she would kind of have to string flurries together in response to Windsor's kind of like arrogant single, thudding shots, which I thought was really cool. I thought she did a great job of like feeling like a more than fitting counterpart for Windsor's like kind of brute force, while still very much being Maki Ito and having all of the kind of the trimmings along the way that people are used to. So she was great here. She definitely wrestled with, both women did, honestly. They wrestled with real desperation. They especially Windsor wrestled was like someone who really was new to the promotion. This was a chance to change their life, which I think there's a lot more truth to that than perhaps just watching the match in a vacuum would suggest. She succeeded. She actually won, which was something. I didn't see that coming. There was some amazing near falls late. There was a roll up the Marky got. Windsor had like a pop up power bomb right down the stretch, and she had one of those flat title wins. And I mean flat as a compliment in the sense that it was like clearly a statement, right? I mean, her performance was up to it, but it was the promotion pretty clearly was giving a thumbs of approval of just like we're going to move, and kind of co-sign and Windsor. So she won center of the ring with a power move. I forget necessarily which, but yeah, I thought this was great. Second favorite match on the show for me. I do think it's the match I would recommend if you were just wanting to watch one. I'd say this is it because wins will make a huge impression on you, and you're probably familiar with Monkey. If you like her stuff, then you'll love this. If you don't, I think this may win you over some because she was awesome here. So I thought her match was tremendous. I saw a lot of buzz about it too, and I think it speaks to the kind of statement that wins are made on her side of things, especially. So there you go. Let's go now to. There was a lot of good wrestling on this show. Riho and Endo versus Mai Saruga and Suzume. She won with the GTF. Get to fuck. My God. Well, that fucking rules. So what I took from this was they established early this dynamic between Saruga and Riho, who are both pupils of Emi Sakura. Now, I do not know if these two women have wrestled extensively or not. The way they framed it, it felt to me like they were setting the stage for them to have a singles match, or they were building to some sort of major matchup. I do not know the circumstances here. This is just what I took from this. This resulted in an incredible sequence early, where like they kind of teased it, and you thought it would come a lot later, and they immediately interacted, and it was fucking awesome. Riho and Saruga had like striking chemistry here, I thought. And again, they may be familiar dance fans, I don't know, but man, they were like in rhythm here. I thought everything they did looked spectacular. They would do this deal where they'd kind of give you those snapshots, and then they would like go to Endo and Suzume, who, from what the commentary seems to suggest, was like a familiar kind of pairing and were kind of natural counterparts for one another. They appear to be like framed as sort of like rising stars in the promotion. Here we go. Maya's 4 years into her career, so Riho's been in the States for a little bit. Okay, good. So you had these kind of two different pieces working alongside each other. And there was a lot of really nice stuff in terms of setting up that aforementioned match. Like, for what a great example was when Riho, she was really punishing Suzume and she stared over it at Maya, which earlier they did the other way around, which was fucking awesome, where she did Riho's, like one of Riho's spots and stared her down. It was great. I love the way they both sold it with their facial expressions. I absolutely adored that part of this deal. But I will say, if this was, again, if I've read it correctly and they are going to give us a singles match at some point, they certainly achieved what they were looking to do here for me, because I absolutely want to see it. What they did in this match together, I thought was like some of the best stuff on the whole show, honestly. There was some cool tandem offense. You had nice sequences down the stretch. There was some really cool like innovation here. There was an awesome deal where Endo got to the middle and then sprung to the top, which looked fucking great. Some cool saves. In the end, it came down to the kind of more familiar pairing of Suzume and Endo. And I believe, I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, Suzume won. She sold for a bunch, kind of flowed and hit her finish and won. Riho is genuinely one of my favorites. I think she's such a brilliant wrestler. And it sure felt like watching these her and Saruga were made to wrestle each other. And that's not to take away from the other two women who are tremendous in their own right. But they really captured the imagination, I thought, with the way they kind of set the stage for their dynamic. The two pupils of Emi, I thought was pretty damn cool. So really like that tag match. Let's go next. Let's stay with tag matches. Let's go to the tag title match, which was the one that I mentioned earlier. That was, I think it came in like 24 minutes. There you go. Oh my God, they even had a great tag match on Dark with Riho and Emi partnered up. My God. Pop. I like this comparison. Nitro Cruiserweight match. I like that a lot. Tag title. Princess Tag Team titles. The champions, Mizuki and Yuka Sakazaki, who are known as the Magical Sugar Rabbits. They were taking on Saki Akaya and Yuki Arai. The challengers were a new team here. I believe they said this was their second time teaming together. Much like one of the teams earlier, it kind of felt like they were sort of a slightly unique pairing, sort of odd couple vibes, which the team earlier, which we'll get to, the one that was in the Shida match, I'll get the names, but they were a more kind of, it felt more comedic, like an odd couple. This one was an interesting pairing. From what I could tell, they were both at very different points in their careers. I think Akai is much more the senior of Arai. Tell me if I'm wrong on this, folks. But this what from what I could gather. The champs are high art brothers. I mean, all energy, great team. But there was something that was really fun about this match. It caught me off guard. I think we kind of saw it when she wrestled Riho on Rampage, but Yuka was not quite as, as cheerful and as glowing as we're used to, right? She was kind of mean here. In fact, at one point in the match, she was a downright bully, it felt like. It fucking ruled. So they opened us up with Yuka and Orion to get to that point. Yuka had like a power advantage. And it was explained on commentary, this is like a thing that's been like a kind of developing plot in Yuka's game. So she was kind of like muscling her around out there. They even circled back to it where like they established Uriah as kind of the underdog of the group, so to speak. And when she turned the tide and actually power slammed Mizuki, got like a big reaction because she's been kind of getting muscled out of there, which popped me. The crowd was really hot for this one. It had that great Japanese crowd of that element I always adore about Japanese wrestling, where you get those reactions before anyone locks up, and the screaming of names, and like that's as good as wrestling gets to me. I've missed that. You got that both on the first bell and when they did a tag in. Hang on a second. Yuka the Magic Girl has dark magic. This is what I've been saying with the heel boss Shida in AEW and having Yuka with her. Yeah, I understand that much more now. I couldn't imagine Yuka as anything but being like pure babyface, but now I get it. She's actually wonderful in this kind of mean-spirited role. This one was interesting in terms of structure. It was a very good match. It kind of was it was unconventional for me in a way structurally that I found a little bit jarring. That's not a criticism, that's a commentary on my personal experience. But nonetheless, they did a spot where the champs did synchronized crossbodies would be the best way to explain it. And they kind of got heat on Arai. And again, I don't think that's the right term necessarily for what this was, but that's the best way to explain it. There was one really interesting spot where it looked like Yuka just kind of grabbed a headlock. But they worked it with such violent desperation, and it was actually like a full-on choke submission tease. This match was jam-packed with big-time epic submission false finishes. This was the first one. Akai made the save. And then in response to that, Yuka, more of her being real mean, threw her right to the corner and was like, "You want to get in? Get in!" It was great. Generally, for this portion of the match, it felt like Yuka Sakazaki was kind of single-handedly maintaining control, which again was not necessarily what I expected when I kind of entered this, but it popped me. Mizuki ultimately built on that. It kind of went a little bit more 50-50. There was another big submission false finish with the crossface. There was one earlier too I didn't mention, the calf crusher, right? What Yuka did. There was one with the crossface. Again, these are all the champs. And this one was especially great because she had the crossface and then Mizuki hooked. She caught the arm and pulled that across, which was again one of those deals where it was so perfectly timed. The audience kind of bit even more oh, this must be the finish, which was tremendous. I love the way they shifted momentum in this match. So for the most part, the champs have been in control of this deal, kind of taking advantage of Araya. And then the shift of momentum was really unique, I thought. Mizuki headed up to the top and was kicked off straight to the floor, which allowed Akai to kind of slide along the apron and throw one of those big, awesome kicks to the face that a lot of wrestlers thrown out. Looked very good. I was a very creative way to turn the tide rather than doing something more conventional. So I like that a lot. And suddenly with that, it was Mizuki who needed a tag. There was a great submission tease on the other side of things with the triangle choke, which Akai caught in this really spectacular way where she just kind of got out of nowhere. It was awesome. And then it all broke down. All four of them were in. There was some different tandem offense. There was some elaborate sequences where people kind of were cutting off at the pass and stuff. It was pretty fun. And ultimately, Yuka threw herself into an axe kick, took the bullet for her partner, and isolated Mizuki was pinned by a Rai. I'm pretty sure got the pin. This was presented as a shock upset. The crowd reacted to it like it was a surprise, and the announcers put it over as such. Um, you got the big gasp on the finish, which is always awesome. So I like this match a lot. I think I would appreciate it more if I had more of an understanding of the different moving pieces. The work I thought was tremendous. Yuka Sakazaki is brilliant. Just a wonderful wrestler. But everyone was very very good here. I thought the work was tremendous. It took me a little bit of kind of adjusting to get used to what they were, or to kind of figure out what they were going for in terms of like pacing and such. But I really really liked that was the co-main event, the tag title match. Okay, where should we go next? Should we go to the Thunder Rosa match? Maybe perhaps we should. Yeah, let's do that next. It must be said, one of my friends, we talk about this a lot on the Grin Grappler actually. There are a few things in professional wrestling that pop me as much as US television wrestling star working a Japanese professional wrestling show and doing so with like pure glee and respect, you know? Thunder Rosa is obviously familiar with this setting. I'm aware she's worked there before AEW, you know, not any of that stuff. But man, it's cool when you see someone this thankful to get that kind of response, you know? She really looked delighted to be back. Her energy is great at the best of times, but there was a sense of inspiration to her performance. I think she wanted to prove a point. Kind of to the, you know, not even to anyone beyond her. So, like, just, I think her reign has been unique in that when she's had a chance to wrestle someone who we all deem to be good, I think she's done a good job. But it's been kind of like, kind of started in a weird way, right? I think she really relished the idea of just wrestling one of the world's best. And certainly she had that in Yamashita. Miyu Yamashita. Again, I apologize if I said the name wrong. I think that's right. Now, I thought this match was very good. Again, I'm kind of going in order of enjoyment here. So while I don't think it was good as the ones above it, it was still very, very good. They started with trading chants. I love the way that Yamashita sold the Thunder Rosa chants, which kind of looked like, now come on now. That was tremendous. Wonderfully expressive. They went to the mat. I absolutely love this part of the match. This to me is like saying that Rosa I actually think should do more in AEW. I just don't necessarily know if the opponents make sense for it, but like she's really comfortable on the mat, and her and Miyu really I thought had nice exchanges there. I didn't love the kind of like sequence heavy stuff that followed. I don't necessarily think that's Rosa's like strong suit. Which is no shame in it. I just think it was clear that she was like a half step off Yamashita, which no shame in that, right? Is what it is. She is much more comfortable on the other hand, trading strikes. I mean, the familiar extensive kind of stretch where, you know, they were trading kicks to the back. And like Rosa was great both when she was selling those and when she was giving those. Like her facial expressions and how much swagger she'd have after she threw them. It was fucking great. It was especially great because she appeared to be like clearly outmatched in the kicking department because you actually that's like a big part of her offense, right? So like her refusing to show this or like grimacing for it, I thought was awesome. There was a great degree of kind of defiance to her performance here, I thought, in kind of trying to send a message as the champ of AEW. I thought it was cool. Of course, this wasn't a title match. This was if Yamashita won, she would get a shot at the AEW title in America. Was the story here? So, they did this deal where they started with this kind of traditional wrestling match, as I mentioned, with the sequences in mat wrestling. But that kick spot, the trading kicks to the back, where they were kind of daring each other to up the ante, it like naturally elevated the intensity of the match, right? And things progressed. And with that, they were able to use that as a bridge to like a more and more violent match. Not violent in the, you know, it's like blood and guts. I mean, violent in terms of the way it was wrestled. Like there was it was heated and it honestly felt like hateful at times, which was more again due to the kind of passion and pride involved, any sort of great conflict, which that works for me. At one point, Yamashita landed a big head kick, and Thunder Rosa had a mouthpiece and like a gum shield. She put it in her mouth, and then she just got kicked in the head again. I don't think that's how it works. I'm not sure. She's had the MMA fight, so I haven't, but I don't know if that helps. Nonetheless, it worked about as well as you'd expect in this match, so there you go. There was a great moment where Rosa had control late, and the crowd came up huge for Yamashita. Like it had that. Then they took the kind of pan the camera. It had that great drama that, again, Japanese crowds, the only crowds that can create that particular vibe. She my bad, guys. She ultimately won with a small package. She will get that title shot we just mentioned. Hopefully, that is presented with real kind of stature and feels grand and important on AEW TV. Strong match. I really liked it. I think they can have an even better match too, which is very promising considering that's what's ahead. So I did think it was kind of wrestled in a way of like that, you're not giving everything away. I did think that was kind of noticeable, but I thought it was really good. I like seeing Rosa in this setting. I just like watching her. I mean, we've had a lot of conversations, discourse about Thunder Rosa, and she certainly isn't like the smoothest pro wrestler out there, whatever that means. But I just enjoy watching her. Like she has you know, her moments where she's a little kind of inconsistent, but on sheer energy and commitment to what she does, I think she's just fun, man. She's bruising out there. She's a cool presence. Very good match. All right, let's do next. Hikari Noa and Hikari Shida up against Mihiru Kiru. And so Yuki Kamiyu. The name is spelled differently to how it appeared what it was being said. So if someone you can explain it to me, that'd be very helpful because I was slightly confused by that. This was the odd couple team I was mentioning earlier, Yuki and Mihiru. Shida, talk about wrestlers being real mean. Shida was real mean here, huh? Very spiteful. No handshake. It did appear that the odd couple team I just mentioned were more character wrestlers than anything else. I apologize if that's incorrect, and actually they've got a collection of 5-star matches behind them. But my read on them in this particular single performance was they were more character wrestlers. Early on, it was it was pretty heavy on shtick. They were getting some heat on Kamiyu. There was a new one on me though, I must say. The way they got out of that heat and went into the comeback, I've never seen this one before. I mentioned earlier the big boot off the top, which I thought was pretty creative, but this one took the cake. At this point, Yuki complained, I think, that one of her nails was broken, and then she poked Shida in the eye, which fucking ruled. Shida looked awesome here. She usually does. There was a big dramatic deal late on where Kiru had the chair, and there was a kind of will she, won't she kind of deal. She seemed like the kind of innocent half of their team was what I kind of gathered from it. I don't know. But she had the chair, and there was a whole deal with that. And, they went to the... She actually, in the end, did intend to use it, I believe. But she just missed, which fair. The iPad is Yuki's primary offense. I respect it. 4 stars. This match was good. I'd like to see Shida in the same setting against I don't know, how do I put this? Like some of the other women we talked about, they felt more like characters, which I love. But Shida's offense, I think, was noticeable. It was even more popping here than usual. Her partner was very impressive too, by the way. Kira is the bookish nerd, so it was is the vibe kind of like the nerd with the kind of cool girl? Is that the vibe they're going for? I don't genuinely, I don't know. It was a cool act though. I mean, the entrance popped me. Yes, we got some Doctor Strange cosplay. Yeah, Shida's pretty damn good, huh? Scoop. All right. So we've talked about that. We talked about Riho. We talked about Maki, Thunder Rosa, the tag title main event. Right, last one I'm going to do in kind of detail. The 8-woman tag was fun, but I don't have any notes on it. The opener, I got the sense they were both kind of, more raw prospects at the start of their journey, and it was pretty short, so that's fine. So I want to talk about Ryo Mizunami and Miyu Watanabe. This was supposed to be uh, Willow Nightingale in the Mizunami spot. Right now, from what I could gather reading about Watanabe, there's a perspective online or perception online that she is potentially the future ace. She's just 22. If that is horseshit, don't blame me. It's what I read on the internet. But that was certainly like a common kind of belief that I read when I kind of did a little bit of digging here. I am familiar with Watanabe only because she does the swing spot. You probably have seen a gif of this on your timeline at some point. That's all I knew about her, but she does the swing spot, which rules, obviously. What I was not prepared for, and if she does this a lot, then that's even funnier, but I haven't seen it in action, right? Like, I've just seen the spot itself. I was not prepared for just how much she was going to get out of this swing spot. This was an absolute like masterclass, dude. She teased it twice and got it on the third one. And like teased it isn't even the right phrase for it. Like, I'm talking like she would grab the legs, she would pull, and she would like fall to her knees, like, oh, this is impossible. I could never do this. And the crowd had this, like, at one point she had it kind of teetering. Like, she was pulling on it, and the crowd was like chanting and trying to rally behind her. And then when she would drop, they would kind of sigh. It was awesome, dude. It really was great. Of course, if you're familiar with Rumors and Army from her AEW run, you'll know her energy. There it is. Her sheer personality as a wrestler is just fabulous. It's really fun watch. She really does shine through the screen in that regard. Like that deal she does at the start where she can like whack the kind of referee on the back. I was gonna say pat, but she hit him a lot harder than that. She's just so much fun to watch. I actually preferred this to the Shida match, to be clear, because I know I said I was doing an order, but these are the kind of dynamics that are universal. And even though I knew, Mizunami, and I knew a little bit about Watanabe, I guess, these are the kind of dynamics that I will always find compelling in professional wrestling. You have the veteran wrestler who is wrestling with a certain degree of confidence and know-how and is basically challenging her younger counterpart to get to her level, basically, right? She's testing her. She's seeing what she has. This is especially common as like a kind of match archetype in Japan. But honestly, it's just a universal wrestling thing. It's fucking awesome. And with that, you actually got a little bit of like speed versus power too. There was times where Watanabe would like ramp up the pace of the match and would have some success. Ryo's chops, Mizunomi's chops. Like, listen, I know that when I say that, you probably think of like the comedy spot for deal she does in the corner where she's like, but when she just straight chops, my god, dude, they may have been the best in the whole show. But she kind of got a little bit complacent. She was having a little bit too much fun out there, and it allowed for this big fiery comeback from Watanabe. They kind of went back to neutral. They traded strikes a little bit, with the kind of those two archetypes I talked about. Those two roles were really central at this point in the match, where basically you had Miyu, she was fighting with like this desperate defiance. Like every strike would like knock her on her heels, and she'd have to fight back to center and throw. Whereas Riho was just kind of center of the ring, just soaking it up as the veteran. Awesome shit, man. Really, really good. Then finally, we got that swing after all. Got a great reaction because, of course, it did build to it, and it was fucking great. And then I love the way that was followed by, it felt like Mizunami was kind of like, all right, game's up. Enough of that shit. I got to end this before I get myself in some trouble. So she won. Very good match. And that brings an end to my personal notes on what I had a blast watching the show. A very fun experience. Summer Sun Princess. Tokyo Joshi Pro event that I believe has got over a 9 on Cage Match. Obviously, it's slightly hard for me to get maximum effect because I don't have like an investment yet, hopefully soon. But it was very apparent to me watching it, this was one of the more loaded shows of the year in terms of like sheer good match. I mean, it was genuinely, it like barely missed. Again, the opening match was two younger wrestlers who appeared, they were out there for 5 minutes, I think. So yeah, I thought this was an absolute blast. It was paced beautifully, where it had a lot of good pro wrestling without really anything overstaying its welcome. Tag title match, I thought maybe a beat long, but again, I didn't have an investment, so that's not really a a critique that I can hang my hat on in any way, shape, or form. I've always a blast. A big part of it, like I've been told this by so many people, that this promotion has um, a very fun vibe. And I know that sounds like really cliche and backhanded compliment, but I'm sure most of you in the chat are familiar with the product much more than I am. But like, it's very like there's serious wrestling, but it's very kind of it's light. I think is that like you can really have fun watching it and just enjoying it as it is. Um, the production was great. A big win if you're a fan of Japanese wrestling, even if you've not seen Tokyo Joshi Pro. You get the crowd, which is always special and important. And I think we all tried our best to adjust to when there was not the crowds we were used to. Man, it's hard. It really is. So it was great to hear the people again. I don't want to, if I was to rate the show, it'd be like an 8 or a 9. But what does that mean, right? I have no context really. So I thought the show was great. It got very, very good reviews. A lot of people on the timeline was putting over. It got a lot of buzz. So there you go. Summer Sun Princess. This is the first time we've done a Joshi show. I hope I didn't make too many of you cringe with my misinformation or mispronunciation. I do apologize for that. I hopefully will learn more and figure it out more as we go. But yeah, and I know Shoot's intrigued by the promotion too, so we might actually do more of this than you may expect. I want to do Stardom soon. But before I go, let's get this actually kind of mention it. So The Burt is a daily show, Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, where I just talk about what happened last night, or I can pick a single topic, and it's just an hour show. I want to, while I'm on the Wrestle Universe gimmick, to kind of add some variety. I want to pick out some single matches to review on that show. So if you're a patron, then you can DM me over there. If you want to become a patron, you can do so. LateNightGrin.com. You can sign up for just $1. You get everything. There are no tiers, just grins. And, you could DM me on Twitter or whatever. The thing is, it probably will be on the Burt, which means you're behind the paywall, but, whatever. I'll give you a link if I have to. So other matches that are on Wrestle Universe are like semi-recent, so they're kind of relevant, that you'd like to see me do a review of. Send me them on Twitter or on Patreon, whatever you prefer. We can do, like, some of the wrestlers on this show that I put over. If there's ones you think I would like even more, feel free to feed me those. I definitely want to do the DDT title match that just happened with Higuchi. I want to do that. I'm told Noah is not so good now. I don't know. But if there's good stuff there, I want to do that too. So different stuff. Hopefully, as we go, we'll get more kind of aware and we can have more elaborate conversations. I'm sure this was very base level as is, but there's got to start somewhere, right? So there you go, folks. Summer Sun Princess, show name of the year, probably one of the best shows of the year. A great, great time. Okay, as for tonight, I do not believe there is another show today. But just stay locked into at Late Night Grid on Twitter, because there might be something that changes. There's always moving pieces. We are getting some stuff done today. You will see soon. But you get what you get, I suppose. Speaking of such, tomorrow, The Burt is back. 10 a.m. Eastern, latenightgrin.com. I will probably be talking about Raw and reviewing one of the matches that is given to me. Tuesday night, 6:05 Eastern. The penultimate episode of Series 1 of the 31 with Robert O'Neill. He has star of Sour Graps, Fightful review extraordinaire Alex Pawlowski on the show. I have heard some terrible rumors about this show, that some unthinkable things are done. We all know my issues with that show, so tune into that. You can go and actually put a thumbs up and remind yourself to watch it now. It's over on the YouTube channel waiting for you. And then tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 maybe even, 7, the Historical Oracle, we return to 1996 as Oracle covers a pivotal month, as we do June of 96, which is, one of the biggest stretches in wrestling history, and we're really going to lock in and focus on that. So that's what's up tomorrow. If you have any tips, any particular messages about this show, feel free to send them my way. And keep grinning, folks. We appreciate you. Hope you've enjoyed this. We hope you enjoy the many things we've got coming up. Keep locked in on the Twitter to see if anything changes. There's another show tonight. But for now, enjoy this outro. Well.